former
Tory chief whip, but you haven't actually been in government for a bit. Nonetheless, despite the fact I don't think you call yourself a household name, you are running to be leader. Do you have any regrets? Because you may not get through tomorrow.
Well, look, I'm confident about getting through tomorrow based on the feedback that I've had from my colleagues from my campaign launch yesterday and the various hustings that we've had. But, you know, you never quite know when it's a secret ballot. So, you know, I hope that the colleagues that have said they're going to support me tomorrow, and we'll see what happens then. What
do you think you bring that your better-known colleagues don't to the party?
Well, look, at the beginning of this contest, I was very happy to accept that I was the underdog. One of my pitches is basically that everyone else in this race has at some point over the last 3 years been in the cabinet and shares the responsibility for the decisions that have been made that have basically got us to the position where we didn't leave the European Union when we said we were going to. And I think the reason why we were punished by the voters was partly because we didn't leave, but it was because we'd made promises to leave. And one of the reasons I've been very clear in my campaign pitch and my Brexit plan, but I'm very conscious that there are lots of candidates in this race, and I understand why they're saying it about leaving on the 31st
Yeah, well, Boris Johnson, for example, streets ahead.
Deal or no deal.
He's saying, I mean, Boris Johnson is saying, no ifs, no buts, we're definitely leaving on the 31st. But that's a mistake.
Well, I think it's a mistake because I don't think there's a credible way that you can leave with a deal on the 31st of October.
Why not?
My judgment,
Why not?
well, because I think a new person will become Prime Minister at the end of July. Most of Europe is on holiday. There isn't really a commission in place now until November.
Yeah.
The chances of getting everyone round a table, agreeing a deal, getting it through both Houses of Parliament, it just simply isn't credible to say you're going to do that by the end of October. And my judgment is, unless you've really, you know, using the phrase that you used on Twitter earlier this evening, busted a gut to get a new deal, those of my colleagues, like Sam, who voted against the government today and have done on previous occasions, are not going to be persuaded that a no-deal outcome is better than not leaving.
And do you think, what is the risk? I mean, you actually designed the Fixed Term Parliament Act. When you were in government under David Cameron. What is the risk that if a Boris Johnson promises a no-deal Brexit, that there's then a vote of no confidence that he loses?
Well, that is one of the risks. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, I would love to leave on the 31st of October. I voted to leave on the 29th of March, the 12th of April, and I voted against extending Article 50. But I think one of the things we're in danger of doing is losing the trust of the public, and that came up in your discussion earlier. I think politicians should make promises they can keep, and then they should keep them. I would rather make a promise to leave a little bit later and keep it than say we're going to leave on the 31st of October and then break that promise. And I just don't think there's a credible plan.
We're going to come back to you in a minute, because I've got to go to the break in a second. But can I just... Are you broadly saying there is a risk, given what Boris has said, that he'll be the shortest-lived Prime Minister in history?
I think there's a risk that there'll be an early election, and most of my colleagues in Parliament don't want an early election, and I think there's a real risk of that.
So much more to pick up with you. Don't go away. More from Mark Harper and from my distinguished panel in just a minute or two. Hello, well, Mark Harper is still with me. Mark, you are running to be Prime Minister, so obviously your record has to be crawled over. Now, you were one of the designers of probably the policy that caused the Prime Minister most bother in the last couple of years, apart from failure to deliver Brexit, which is the so-called hostile environment for immigration, including those vans that went across London telling people to go home. You haven't apologised for that. Why not?
Well, look, the message, which I do keep reminding people, was aimed at people in Britain illegally, which everyone conveniently forgets. And I just saw you look to the heavens there. It was it was a pilot. We tested a range of measures that summer to see what would be effective at getting people to leave the country that were here illegally. And we collected some evidence to see what worked. And we were very upfront about it. It didn't work very well, and we didn't do it again. And
it's very embarrassing, but I mean, equally, you know, for example, there was a policy to get landlords to, do checks on people who are staying with them, which the courts then said were frankly not proper. Do you have no regrets about any of this?
Well, look, there's a couple of things. The policy intention, which is to make sure that people come to Britain, we want to welcome people to come to Britain who come here legally, people who come and bring skills. We want to have an outward-looking immigration policy, actually, that doesn't... The advantage of leaving the European Union is we can purely pick people based on the skills they've got, what they bring to the country. I want the smartest and best people from around the world to come to Britain. But it is important that they come here legally, and if people come to Britain and break our laws, everybody expects the laws to be enforced. Now, that has to be done in a careful way, it has to be done in a fair way, but I think you do need firm but fair immigration control. Is it easy? No, it isn't, because you're dealing, like all parts of the criminal justice system, you know, there are people that try and break the rules, there are people that try and come to Britain when they have no right to be here. It has to be done carefully and sensibly, and there are clearly occasions when that hasn't worked well, and we should improve things. You know, part of government isn't about just passing laws, it's about governing well, having good administration, and proper systems to fix things when they go wrong.
But people would also say that if you try things that in the end, you know, people say, for all sorts of reasons, are a mistake, it's a sign of, you know, a proper leader to say, sorry, I got it wrong.
Well, on the stuff that you were referring to, which we piloted, they were just pilots, and they didn't work, and we didn't do them again. I don't really think they need to be apologised for. We tested some ideas, and actually we did something we should do more of. It was evidence-based policy making. We collected data, we saw whether something worked, it didn't, so we didn't do it again.
Now, obviously, you, like every other candidate, says the priority is delivering Brexit,
yes.
But there probably isn't a future for the Tory party unless you have a few other ideas. What's your single biggest priority?
Well, for me, it's two things I've been talking about, which I violated your rule there too. The first one is about freedom and giving people more control over their life, which I think means leaving them with more of their own money. And your earlier discussion, I would focus that at the lower end of the income spectrum.
Yep.
We've just delivered...
So not what Boris... So you think Boris has made a mistake in saying give more money to those on higher earnings?
Well, yes, I think you make choices. We've just delivered our manifesto commitment to increase the threshold for higher rate taxpayers to 50,000.
Yep.
We've delivered that a year early.
So shoving that up to 80,000 is a mistake?
Yeah, for me, if I had some extra money available, I would want to increase the national living wage. I'd want to increase work allowances for people on universal credit to leave families with to keep more of their own money. And I'd want to cut the basic rate of income tax to make sure we deliver help for people at the lower end of the income spectrum.
Given that you say he's wrong on that, do you understand why so many of your colleagues are backing him?
Well, no, because obviously I'm not backing him because I'm standing and I'm trying to persuade people to vote for me. But I think that's...
Could you work for him?
Well, look, whoever wins this contest, if it isn't me, or even if it is me, is going to have won a majority of the support of members of the party that I love. I will want that person to be successful. I will want them to lead a successful Conservative government. So if they want me to help them do that, of course I will want that to be, you know, I'll be happy to help them in whatever role because I want them to be successful.
Can I just bring in some of my distinguished MP friends over here? Sam, one question. Is there enough debate in your party about what the Tory party actually stands for other than delivering Brexit?
I don't think there is. The reason why I entered the race and exited rather quickly, but was that although we had a broad spread of candidates, a very narrow range of views were being discussed on the main issue of the day, that is Brexit. There's actually been very little debate on issues
about anything else at all,
Brexit.
Really?
And even on Brexit, there hasn't been a lot of interrogation of the candidates' actual policies. And what you have is every candidate painting their own picture of what they would deliver, but no one has actually asked them, so what if you can't renegotiate? Or what if you can't deliver no deal? Then what is your plan B? And I think
so I want to bring in Annunziata now, but, I mean, you must have a huge conflict of interest here, because if Mark Harper or another Tory leader, Boris Johnson, looks like he's going to be delivers Brexit, your party's over.
I think that talking about, as Sam was saying, the debate going about who will become the next Prime Minister, it highlights so perfectly the splits that go far deeper than Brexit in the Conservative Party, but they're also very present in the Labour Party, and what needs to change...
They are, aren't they, Lisa? They are.
No comment at all.
How was the PLP the other night?
It was awful. Could I just come back on something? Could I just come back on something that Mark
please,
said?
No, please do.
I've been sitting here stewing about it for the last few minutes. It's just not good enough to apologise for the fact that the go-home vans didn't work. They were dehumanising, they were completely immoral, and they helped to create the sort of environment that had major, major implications for the Windrush generation and many, many other people.
All right, you've got it off your chest.
And you should be apologising for that.
I'm afraid, unfortunately, I have to wrap it up. That's it. Tomorrow we'll...